welcome to Real Talk, Real People, Real Conversation. This is where people come together to be enlightened, informed, and encouraged, where change comes about on a mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual level. Today, I have Miss Marcie Cole with me, and we're going to talk about something that many people don't like talking about it, and it is about negative behavior. Why don't we challenge them? For those who know and those who don't know my background, I am a financial consultant. I'm a mother of two young men. I have 7 grandchildren. My passion, my purpose in life is to empower women, and I go to the county jail and I mentor women at the county jail, as well as I get calls from different organizations that helps human traffic survivors. And so I listen to a lot of stories all over the years. I've been mentoring since I was 20, and women just come to me and pour into me about situations that they're going through. And, with God's grace and his mercy, he gives me the insight, the tools to help them to navigate. But a lot of things have to do with negative behavior that we see. And as women, we do not challenge it, even for ourselves and for other women that reaches out. So today I happen to be having a conversation with Miss Marcie Cole, and I said, hey, join me in a conversation because this is something that we all need to talk about. And so today I have her. We just going to freestyle and talk about how we can help women to overcome some of the challenges that we go through of why we don't speak but regarding negative behavior. Okay. So let's bring her on. Miss Marcie. Hello, Miss Lady. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. I am fine. Thank you. Thank you for
Yes.
having me. I appreciate us
You
having
welcome.
this conversation.
You welcome.
Uh,
You welcome. When I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you. I know this is the day after the holiday, so I hope you had a wonderful Merry Christmas.
yes, I did. Just hanging out with family, my daughter, my son-in-law to be in the next upcoming year. We're just one big family, just loving life, loving God, because everything I know that I do comes from Him, the power that He gives me to do the things that I do. Uh,
Absolutely.
I am an
Absolutely.
educator.
Yes.
I have been involved with helping students for the past 30 years, working with them in various stages of their lives, crises, critical management, behavior management, social and emotional management, time management, helping students to understand that they are the most precious, precious, precious jewels um, that we have on earth. And if we don't take care of them, then there will be no one to take care of us. So,
Absolutely.
unfortunately, adults seem to think that we weren't children once. And so, with that premise, we want to teach our children to not be seen and not be heard. Um, and that for me is something that prevents adults from becoming the person that they were meant to be.
Okay, hold up.
Because
Wait. You said something. Wind that back. You said that parents do not want children to be seen or to be heard. Is that what you just said?
they don't want them to be seen or to be heard.
Really? Is that what you're
It's
finding in your
it-
field?
it's kind of like, when you're having conversations and a child might pipe in and say, "Hey, this is not your conversation. This is an
Mm-hmm.
adult conversation."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, there's a different way to handle that, but
Mm-hmm.
most of us aren't taught that we can allow our child to be expressive,
Mm-hmm.
but not be confrontational.
Okay. So with that being said, let me just question on that one because we grew up in a different generation, right? And so I'm not sure exactly how it is now, and what you're expressing is what you're seeing now. But back then, we're not allowed to butt in grown folks' conversation. That was what they say, right? So we kind of just step away. So what you're saying is that now you see it even more, and as you see it more, you're saying that for you now, I know how some parents are. Let's say you seen a mother disrespect the child because the child was not supposed to voice their opinion in the conversation, and however that mother handled it, it might hurt you how she attacked that child, right? And so you're saying that this is where the negative behavior, where we should be able to approach that parent in the way and say, hey up, wait a minute, you shouldn't talk to your child that way. And that's something that's really sensitive that we don't know how to handle it. So are you saying that you're comfortable to interact with that parent, to address that parent in that way?
In any given situation where you in a public setting,
Mm-hmm.
it's a difficult challenge
It has
to
always
approach
been.
a parent in that setting
Okay. So what do
because
you?
you don't know the background, you don't know the history,
Correct.
you don't know what initiated that conversation
Mm-hmm.
or initiated that behavior.
Correct. So
So
is there? Go
that's a
ahead.
challenging, that's kind of overreaching your position
Correct.
as another adult, as another mother.
Yes.
But in a private setting,
Mm-hmm.
you should be allowed to address that situation.
Have you?
I have.
You have?
Um,
And what's the turnout?
in private. I've worked with parenting, pregnant and parenting team.
Mm-hmm.
I have worked with children that have been abused,
Mm-hmm.
parents that were on the other side of the aisle because they didn't understand, because their history
Mm-hmm.
was shut down, sit down,
Mm-hmm.
you are a child.
Mm-hmm.
So this conversation does not belong to you. You are not entitled.
Correct. And a lot of parents pass that down to their children. And that's what you're seeing. And that's what you're speaking about. So,
Yes.
I get it. In a private setting, you do have the opportunity. So, can you share, one of the examples to help us? Because sometimes I could be at Walmart and I hear a mother just cussing at the child, and my heart just goes out for that baby girl, because whatever mama is going through, we understand that she's taking out on that baby girl, maybe because she just asked for a toy or asked for something, and she get drugged through that Walmart, and mama don't care. But we stand by, we look, we watch, and we want to say something, but because we don't know what that situation, like you just said, what all happened, what that mama going through. But somebody should say something, but we so afraid of the conflict. So please enlighten us how you handle some of that conflict, diffuse the conflict, so the mother can do better.
In private, in
Okay.
private. Um, you can always go up in private if you're in a shopping center and you notice that, you witness that. In private, you might be able to take that mom aside and say, oh my gosh, I just totally, totally understand the feeling that you felt in that moment. I totally understand it.
Mm,
But as mom to mom, I would love to have a conversation with you
mhm,
about your beautiful baby.
mhm. I like that. I like that.
Love is an amazing tool.
Phew, tell me about it. Love heals everything and fix everything. So
Yes,
have
it
you
does. But
have you had
but
a situation where it did not go that way?
have I had a conversation where it did not go that way?
Correct. Cuz
It's
I mean,
you seriously have to kind of, because I've been teaching for so long,
uh-huh.
you kind of have to weigh the temperament of what's being said.
Okay.
and in the context of how it's being said,
Agree.
because it can go south real
It
quick.
can, it can, and that's the
It
reason
can.
why, a lot of us are afraid, have that fear of that conflict because we don't know if it's going to go south. And like you
Right.
said, you kind of
Right.
got to have a feel of it, but and not having the experience of years of interacting with the parent and adult. See, you got that background, so it becomes so much easy for you because you know how to diffuse it if it do go south, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I remember once when my daughter was probably about 4,
Mhm.
and I live in the San Fernando Valley, and we were in the Burbank Shopping Center, and uh, my daughter's now in her 30s,
Mhm.
licensed psychologist, and um, we were there just hanging out, a day off from school, and a little boy walked by, and this was like when Sears was
Mhm.
just opening up
Mhm.
in the Burbank Shopping Center. So this was many years ago. And he walked by and he looked at my daughter and he goes, "Oh, there's a monkey." And my daughter said, "Where's the monkey, mommy?"
Mhm.
And I said, "Excuse me? What did you just say?"
Uh-huh.
And he didn't say anything else. And so I said, "Where's your mommy?"
Mhm.
And he pointed. And I walked over to his mom and I said, "Is that your son?"
Mhm.
And she said, "Yes, that's my son." And I said, "I'm so sorry, but I'm not sure if what I heard was something that he meant to say
Mhm.
or something that he thought was appropriate for him to say
Mhm.
to another small child,
Mhm.
another human being."
Mhm.
And she said, "Well, I don't know what it is that you," I said, "Your son, unfortunately, has lived in your presence." I said, "How old is he?"
Mhm.
And she said, "He's 2." I
Mhm.
said, "Unfortunately, he has lived in your presence for 2 years
Mhm.
with the wrong information.
Mhm.
So I am here to tell you that as a mother, you need to reset,
Mhm.
because what you're teaching him is not going to go over well as he gets older.
Mhm.
So here's my advice to you, from a mom
Mhm.
to a mom: understand what you're teaching your children so they're not destructive when they're out in the community.
Mhm. Question. So, did you tell the mother what her child said?
I did.
You did. Okay. Okay.
I
I didn't
did.
hear you say that. Okay.
She denied it.
Oh, she denied it. Oh,
She denied it. She
oh,
said, "Oh, he would never say that."
oh,
I
really?
said,
Okay.
I said, "Unfortunately, again, he's had you for a mom,
Mhm.
and that's not good for him."
And how did that go?
She just said, I deny it. He did not say it. My son did not say it. I said, "Well, you can continue denying because apparently that works for you."
Okay. And was this another private setting? Oh, no, you said you was in the supermarket.
This was in a public setting. This was in
Okay.
a public setting, but this was a direct engagement
Mhm.
between my child and someone else's child.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So
Wow.
I was able to address that situation. And
Mhm.
so my thing was to teach my daughter
Mhm.
that it doesn't matter in what setting you are,
Mhm.
never allow someone, anyone, to make you feel uncomfortable in
Correct.
your own skin.
Correct. Absolutely.
Never allow.
Yes. I mean, especially if you have that opportunity and it's towards you. Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Yes,
totally agree.
yes,
But unfortunately, sometimes we females, interact with different relationships and we'll allow someone to disrespect us and don't say anything. We just make excuses for that individual. And then we find out that we just open up a can of worms because the moment you don't say anything, you have let it increase over time. Now it's out of control, and then now you're starting to speak about it, and by that time the damage is already done.
absolutely, because you've already given it space to grow.
Correct. Absolutely. And that's
So,
something,
and
and that's good. That I'm glad we're talking about that, because sometimes people don't realize the dynamics of it. You know what I'm saying?
exactly, exactly. And that's the thing when we teach our children, because
Hmm.
parents don't realize that we're our children's first teacher.
Yes, we are.
We don't, so many parents, oh, I'm sending my child to school. No, you've already planted that seed.
Wait, did you just say some parents don't realize that we're their first teachers?
We are. We
No,
are
no, no,
our
no, no, no,
children's
no,
first teacher.
no. Did you just say some parents believe that we are not their first?
They
Te-
don't realize
really?
that they are their children's first teacher.
I have never heard that.
Yeah, they don't. A lot.
Wow.
Well, that's why I send them to school.
I can understand that mindset. Okay. Okay.
That's why I send
Wow.
them to school for you to teach them.
Mm. Well,
No,
the beautiful
no,
thing, you get the opportunity to teach them.
you're sending them to school for me to expand them,
Correct. Correct. And maybe to correct them and fix some of the
to
issues that they
help,
might be having.
to
Yeah, to
help
help. Yes.
tweak
Yes.
some of that.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
But I'm not your
Absolutely.
child's first teacher.
No, you're not.
You are.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
So
And
I remember working in teaching in a mental health
mm-hmm.
organization. We had a school, we had a mental health organization as well. Well, the school was encompassing within the mental health
Mm-hmm.
organization. And at the time, my nephew was the same age as the child
Mm-hmm.
that I overheard. And what I overheard was alarming
Mm-hmm.
because when I inquired about the age of the child, it was the same age as my nephew.
Okay.
But the behavior that was exhibited by that 2 year old
Mm-hmm.
was alarming
Mm.
because it was observing a 2 year old
Mm-hmm.
coming from a 40-year old.
Mm-hmm.
So if I am my child's first teacher
Mm-hmm.
and I am teaching my 2 year old that my 2 year old should behave as a 40-year old,
Mm-hmm.
then where is the 2 year old?
He ain't there. So having that type of experience. So, and you seeing that 2 year. So when you're a teacher for that 2-year-old at that moment, and you seeing the behavior. So do you try to correct that 2-year-old? Now that's a little bit challenging, because that 2-year-old is only with you for a couple of hours. That 2-year-old is with that 40-year-old person for days and days. So it's already embedded in him, but he's looking at you as if you got the problem if you're telling him that something is wrong, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So how does a teacher try to make a change in that? And I know it's kind of challenging, because I know it's kind of challenging. So how did you bring it to the apparent adult that they are the teacher, and whatever they're doing home, that it needs to be a little bit mindful so the child does not continue this behavior among the other students in the classroom?
I will use this example that I used on one of my pregnant and parenting teen young women.
Mhm.
Very smart, very intelligent. But when you have been inundated with negative behaviors,
Mhm.
when you have been uh, contracted
Mhm.
in a situation that the clause doesn't apply to you,
Mhm.
that says you have options. It's not like going to a car dealership and you can purchase and you can walk away if this deal doesn't fit or suit you. A child has no option until someone else steps in on behalf of that child. So during one of my classes, one of my students had to leave class. One of my lessons, one of my students had to leave class to go because the school, the preschool, was in the same complex. And so she was called from class because she had to, uh, a situation had come up and she had to address it. And so she left class and she had to remove her son from school, from his class. And I didn't see her for the rest of the day. So I saw her the next day and I said, "Hey, we missed you, after you left because we were going over some very critical information
Mhm.
about behaviors." And it, I don't know if you've, I don't know if you have ever been in a classroom setting where 90% of your students are from challenging backgrounds, challenging histories.
Not in the depth where they all are there for that particular reason,
Yeah,
but we all come from dysfunctional homes, so in the
yeah,
classroom we all got some issues,
yeah,
right? But it's not
absolutely.
identified. But no,
Yeah,
no, ma'am, no, not to that extent that you're addressing. No.
yeah. So this was my everyday. So the next day, we at break time, I asked her if we could have a conversation, and so she said yes. And because over time you have to develop trust with your students,
Correct. Correct.
and so she trusted me, and she said yes. And I said to her, "I'd like to show you something." So I said, "Explain to me what happened. You don't have to give me the entirety, but give me a
Mhm.
synopsis of what happened." So she told
Mhm.
me. And so I said, "I'd like to show you something." So this was what, late 90s?
Mhm.
No, early 2000, maybe 2002, 2003.
Mhm.
So it's been some years.
Okay.
So I pulled out a pencil and
Mhm.
I pulled out a penny and I pulled out a sheet of what do you call it? Paper, tracing paper,
Mhm.
where you could
Okay.
trace.
Mhm.
And so I said to her, "I want to show you something."
Mhm.
I said, "I have a penny, I have a pencil,
Mhm.
and I have a sheet of tracing paper.
Mhm.
I want you to take the penny, flip it over, put the tracing paper on the penny, and then trace it, rub the lead of the pencil over the
Mhm.
tracing paper."
Mhm.
And I said, "What comes up?" She said, "Oh, Miss Cole, the image of the penny."
Mhm.
I said, "Yes." I said, "Your son's brain
Mhm.
is that camera in
Mhm.
his brain.
Mhm.
So his eyes are the camera,
Mhm.
his ears are the camera.
Mhm.
So whenever he hears you and he sees you, his brain is clicking
Mm-hmm.
and he's snapshotting everything that's happening.
That's
So
beautiful. Mm-hmm.
this is his recall.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he's in another environment
Mm-hmm.
where you're not to
Mm-hmm.
tell him don't, he's recalling what
Mm-hmm.
he's heard and he's recalling what he saw.
That's beautiful that you share that analogy with that parent, because they always say the child brain is like a sponge. We absorb and pay attention to every single thing that the adult or the parent does. And so, what was her response? I mean, did she apologize? Did she kind of get better over time?
She said, no one has ever taken the time to show her that her behavior would become his behavior.
That's beautiful that you would share. You
So
introduced that to her. Mm-hmm.
he was a reflection
Mm-hmm.
of her.
Mm-hmm.
I said, so whatever he's doing in school,
Mm-hmm.
that you are now having to leave your classroom to address the behavior that you taught him,
Mm-hmm.
you need to start addressing the behaviors that someone else taught me.
Correct. You know what comes to mind. I always used to tell my mother when she complained about our siblings or whatever, or even my kids to the day. I say the apple didn't fall too far from the tree, and so that means sometimes when we criticize our children, we don't realize a lot of the behavior they got from us. Believe it or not, sometimes we're like, oh no, they didn't get that from me. They got it from the father's side. Whoever was raising that child got it from them, right?
That's right.
So
That's
because
right.
you're talking about school, I remember a couple of times where not very often, but my child, you know how your kid act up and the principal got to call the parents and say, look, you got to come get your child. I didn't have a lot of them, but I
Yeah.
did have maybe one or two. And my mother came and got me a couple of times when I was young. But get mad at me. But whatever was going on home, I just acted out in school.
Right.
So this
Right.
is good information for those who's still in school, who's dealing with kids that's acting up in school. It's like, hello, the apple didn't fall too far from the tree.
Uh,
We quick to criticize the child, but
right.
don't correct ourselves. So
Exactly.
I appreciate you for sharing
Exactly.
that. Yes.
So, make a long story short about that, my student was able to correct her behavior.
Your student was?
She was able to correct her behavior,
Uh-huh.
taught her baby's father to correct his behavior,
Really? Okay.
and she went on to go to nursing school.
Really? And what was the trigger that she recognized for herself that she had to change while in your present to help with the baby daddy changing so she can move forward?
Seeing herself in
Mm-hmm.
her son,
Mm. Beautiful.
I said, if this is the legacy that you choose to give him to move forward with,
Mm-hmm.
then absolutely teach him that book, teach him from that book.
Mm.
But if you desire for him to be something more,
Mm-hmm.
then teach him from what you're learning.
Mhm. Oh man. I would just wish there were more parents like you or teachers like you can, stop us as we're growing and let us look at the person who we are. Look at the person who we truly are so we can see the direction that we're going, whether it's direction that we want to go or not. And like you said, what legacy are you leaving? Even a reflection on yourself, because I will say for me, I was a teen mom, and so um my mother constantly worked. She was a workaholic, constantly working because she had to take care of the family. It was six of us including me, is 7, right? So I just seen my mother just work, work, work. She was in the nursing field, taking care of patients in the hospital, right? And so then, and my dad, he was in the military, so I didn't see him very often, but I would always be with him on a weekend, or my mother.
Mhm.
So when I
Mhm.
became a teen mom, they were a little bit disappointed of me being a teen mom. And so because they were in a little bit spotlight, because my grandmother was the captain of the neighborhood, so everybody knew her, she was ashamed of having a
Mhm.
granddaughter who was, pregnant, right? And so they kind of act a certain way, and kind of just, I just kind of pulled myself away from their behavior because I didn't like how they were treating me. So,
Mhm.
they kind of pretend I didn't exist to some level, right? But during that transition of me being that teen mom, you know, because they treated me a certain way when I had that baby for me, I said, I'm going to give this baby all the love that it needs. I put that baby before me and made sure that no matter what, I was going to protect, provide, love, and everything. But at a 13-year-old mind, it's because what I seen around the family, but also how they treated me. And
Mhm.
because I didn't feel loved at that moment, I made
Right.
sure I was going to give that baby that love. So because that happened to me, it was already, whether God said, hey, you better nurture this baby and take care of this baby, I already knew that. So in my growing up, it was always about the baby, making sure you give him everything, love and protect him. And it got to a point I wouldn't even want people to hold the baby, And so that's good that you going out doing it, helping young adults and parents to understand. But for me, it was different because it happened at a young age of not getting the love from the parent. I guess I looked at it a little bit different. Now that I have something, I better nurture it and love it and protect it. So yeah, I just wanted to share the opposite of the same thing you're doing. I didn't have
Yeah.
to go that direction, you know.
Right.
And I will say, a lot of women in the prison, I listen to a lot of their upbringing, their childhood
Mhm.
trauma, and what you're doing is what they needed at the time.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
have one woman, she's 50 something years old, and she keeps saying she ain't good enough. And I'm thinking,
Mm.
I said, we don't teach ourselves that we're not good enough. Somebody had to tell us we ain't good enough. So I just let her keep talking. And she was just telling me how she was 5 years old and she accidentally gave her brother a grape because her mother told her to hold the baby, and gave the baby a grape. And then by the time the mother came and grabbed the baby was like blue or whatever. So she told that little 5-year-old girl that she was nothing. She's nothing. She ain't good enough. So here it is, 50 something years old. She's still thinking she ain't good enough. And so that's what you're saying. You're dealing with these kids that feel though they're not good enough, and you're reaching them at a young age to help to block that. So I
Yes.
so I
Yeah.
definitely commend you for
To,
doing that.
to help give them the understanding that simply because someone else may be in trauma
Mhm.
and they're unable to exercise their right to deal with that trauma, whether
Mhm.
it's from their own fear, whether it's from, I'm afraid to confront someone because I don't want that person to leave me,
Mhm.
whether it's from a discomfort that they feel about being able to confront someone about their lack of how to give love
Mhm.
or their inability to give love
Mhm.
because they did not receive love,
Mhm.
or a desire just to maintain some sort of balance or harmony within the situation because they don't want it to become a bigger situation.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely.
So, the uncertainty about what happens when a
Mhm.
child or someone that has been uh shadowed
Mhm.
by fear for so long is that you take on that coat and you
Correct.
start to wear it.
Correct. And that's
Be-
exactly what she did.
Yeah,
Correct.
because
Correct.
now it becomes, a comfort zone for you.
Exactly. And speaking of that, there's a young lady, she I was on her podcast and she teached about domestic violence. And she said that her parents, she grew up in a domestic violence environment, not physical, but mentally, just like the young girl who I was just telling you. And so she grew up in her relationships with her boyfriends and stuff like that. Because he disrespected her, she wore that coat. She was comfortable with it because that's all she knew. And to at some point she realized and she looked around and seeing other people in other relationships and how their mate is communicating with their
Hmm.
young lady
Hmm.
and he's disrespecting me. That's when she got the aha moment and said,
Hmm.
whoa, wait a minute. Why you treat me like this? She didn't even
Right,
realize it was an issue until
right,
she noticed that it
right.
was different. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that is one thing that us as friends, we have to check our friends and say, hey, don't let your man talk to you like
Mm-mm.
that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And I will say
Mm-mm.
that sometimes we still make excuses. Oh, he was just playing. Okay, if he's playing, tell him to stop it. Okay, because like you said, we get comfortable and we make
Mhm.
a big room for them to continue happening. And then from that point, domestic violence happening. There's a lot of domestic violence that I see with a lot of women.
And what you just said goes back to lack of having clarity
Mm-hmm.
about what is hurtful and what is loving.
Correct.
Sometimes we fall into that trap
Mm-hmm.
of, oh, he or she is just playing. No,
Mm-hmm.
they're not.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying exactly what they feel,
Mm-hmm.
but you're allowing them to feel comfortable with tearing you apart.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get clarity because you're not asking, what exactly are you saying?
Correct. But guess what? I love what you said about the clarity because at a young age, if it's taking place at a young age, you don't even know the difference between clarity or love, right? But your feelings was hurt, right? So then you go run to mom and you wanting mom love and she telling you to go away. So here it is. You got this void thinking, well, what just happened is okay. So guess what? I'm growing up thinking it's okay,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that's what you see a lot that's going on with society.
yeah. Because nobody ever made that clear that it wasn't okay.
Until we recognize our self-worth, our
Yes,
self-value, then
yes,
that's when we say enough is enough.
yeah,
And by
yeah.
that time the
And
damage has been done. But go ahead, I'm
that's
sorry.
right. The thing is, we don't when we are just now learning what accountability means.
Correct.
We are only now learning what that means
Mm-hmm.
because accountability was never a topic of conversation in personal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability is for accountants
Mm-hmm. Like me, right?
like you.
Yes. Yes.
Accountability is checks and balances for money,
Correct.
for finances.
Correct.
So we don't, when the thing is, when we don't understand language,
Mm-hmm.
we get caught
Mm-hmm.
in behaviors
Mm-hmm.
because we don't understand language.
Correct.
When we say, I'm holding you accountable,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about how much money you have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the behavior that you're displaying.
Correct. But by what what's coming to me, and I just want to share this. When we watch our parents have interactions, we know that something's not right. So I was growing up, and I think I was in my maybe 12 or 11, and I was staying with my uncle and my aunt, and my uncle would beat on my aunt, and
Mm.
I would see this,
Mm.
and my mother knew. But nobody's like rescuing her. I'm thinking, what's going on? She will leave. My aunt will leave, go away, and then something happened. They come back together again, right? So I'm
Mm.
sitting there like, what the heck is going on? Why no adults, nobody rescuing this woman? Why she keep coming back to this man? So there was accountability, but nobody came and corrected so our vision can be more clear as we grow up. You know what I'm saying? So everybody just push it under the rug, don't talk about it, don't say anything. So here we grow up as adults playing that same role, as in if anything happened, push it under the rug.
Yeah, well, that wasn't accountability, that was deflection.
Okay,
They deflected it.
correct. Absolutely.
They didn't hold him accountable. They
They
deflected it.
they didn't do
They put
anything.
it they put it aside. They
But the
brushed
thing,
it off.
but the thing about it,
Instead of instead of confronting him, they
correct,
deflected it.
correct. Now keep in mind, she got 5 children, and they seeing this happen to mom. You know what I'm saying? And so this is, I guess, the generational curse they talk about as well. We just let it slide without having the conversation to address these the situations where people are now need to be accountability, like you said.
So yeah, and the thing is, I teach my students that there are 4 R's that they need to remember,
Okay, listening.
and those R's are the role that they play in
Mm-hmm.
any situation,
Mm-hmm.
the role that they play. The other R is um, the realization
Mm-hmm.
of who they are
Okay.
in any situation. Who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Are you the agitator?
Mm-hmm.
Are you the peacemaker?
Mm-hmm.
Are you the person that's oppressing somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you that person that is going to become the voice to speak up for what isn't right in this situation? Who are
I,
you?
I love that. Mm-hmm.
The other R is the responsibility that you have
Mm-hmm.
for you. And I'm teaching this to my second graders.
Really? Okay, I'm listening. I'm loving it. But go ahead. What's up? What's the fourth R?
The responsibility that you have,
Mm-hmm.
one, as a student,
Mm-hmm.
two, as a second grader,
Mm-hmm.
three, as someone who is invested in you,
Mm-hmm.
and the last one is someone that's invested in your future.
Okay.
Because tomorrow, when I come back to class,
Uh-huh.
is a different day. It's not going
Yes.
to be the same as today. It's going to be a different day.
Okay. Yes.
And the fourth R is, what is it that you are going to repeat? What are you going to repeat? What behaviors are you going to repeat?
Mm-hmm.
So, are you going to come back tomorrow and repeat the behaviors that we addressed today?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you going to come back and repeat the behaviors that you want to change?
Now what grade? Now you said second grade. Refresh my
Second
memory.
grade. These are my
How, well,
second graders.
what's the age of them?
They are
What's the
7,
Okay,
they're 6 and 7. They're 6 and
6 and 7.
7
Okay.
year old.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
good. That's good because whatever you
yes,
teaching them, and I love the 4 R's because what you're teaching them is taking that home, and then they get to reflect on what mom and dad or whoever watching over them, and now they trying to correlate what you're saying to them, applying to what's being teach home, and
that's
now they
right.
have a huge responsibility because they know when they show up the next day in your classroom they got to have them 4 R's in place to know who
That's
they
right.
are and their roles and responsibilities and everything. I love that. I love that. And sometimes we don't have to teach the adults. You're teaching the child. You're starting, there's a gentleman, a young lady told me to check to watch out this, to pay attention to this man. His name is Thorman Scott, and he's from back east. And he worked with children all different ages. But what he do, he had them to draw their reality. And then change the reality of what you want it to be. What is you? What how do you want to live in this world? And
Hmm.
they go on stage
Hmm.
and they share their drawing to what they want to be, not what mom and dad teach them, but what they want society to be. And I watched it and it was just so beautiful. So it reminded me of what you're doing, and some of that exercise I want to take that into the prison with these ladies who feel trapped and don't know how to get out to express that trauma and how they really want society or how they want to live their life in the future. So thank you. I took the 4 R's and I'm gonna share that. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I do push in where I go into the classrooms
Mhm.
and I do small groups with my students in the classrooms. So one of my teachers, because she is the main teacher in the classroom, and she
Mhm.
came back to me like at the end of school and she goes, "You know what? I can see the difference in your groups
Mhm.
than I see in others.
Okay, that's
I,
good.
I'm not the only one in the classroom,
Uh huh.
but there's a difference because of the way I interact with my group."
With your student. So can you share, some of the exercise of the 4 R's that you make them be accountable, where they see who they are and what role they play? Like, what type of exercise do you give them where it could be imprinted in their mind so they know how to grow from it day after day?
Well, one of the things I do with them is okay, what is your role? What's your role right now as we're sitting here? What role are you playing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be the clown? Do you want to be the learner?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be the distractor?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to be that student that is engaging because there's something that you need to walk away with today? So, what role are you playing here right now? And they'll sit there for a minute
Mm-hmm.
and then they're like, okay, I want to learn. I want to learn. I want to learn. So, if you want to learn, then you'd be getting that role of being a learner
I
and we
love
can
it.
work together.
Uh-huh.
So, one of the things that I find with students is that students, you have to find their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see a student who exhibit leadership,
Mm-hmm.
I use that leadership.
Okay. Okay. Now, have you found any kids? Well, I guess you could have some kids who's kind of shy, because a lot of kids are so innocent, they shy. It's hard to identify leadership. How do you find the leadership in them little kids, the ones that want to speak up all the time?
I'm gonna use maybe a little sexist, but I'm gonna use this one.
Okay, be
Um,
gentle now. Everybody listening now. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I had a group of 6 students.
Okay.
5 were boys and 1 was a girl.
Okay.
And so the boys are rambunctious. They're
Mhm.
talking, they're this, they're that. And she was very, very quiet, very quiet. She didn't say anything. She didn't participate. She looked around the room all the time. And I thought to myself, okay. So you are the only girl in this group and you feel outnumbered.
Mhm.
So I said to her, there are 2 of us here
Mhm.
against a male dominated group of guys. What do you think?
Uh-huh.
She said, I know.
Mhm.
I said, okay, so how about you and I work together
Mhm.
and we can see what we can teach them.
Okay.
And she said, oh, okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
So I said, okay, so what would you like to help me with today?
Mhm.
So she said, oh, I'd like to help you with passing out the notebooks or passing out. I said, okay.
Mhm.
So we started doing that. And little by little, the next day I said, okay, so what job would you like to help me with today?
Mhm.
And by this time, I'm noticing that why is she getting to do all of this? Why is she getting to do all of that?
Mhm.
Why aren't we able to help you do this and help
Uh-oh.
you do that?
Uh-huh.
And so I would say to her, okay, who would you like to help you today? So then she started saying, well, if you would behave yourself and listen to Miss Cole, maybe you could be my helper today. And
Uh-huh.
it just went from there.
Okay. I love it.
So it's like you really have to observe them
Mhm.
and see who they are.
Correct.
By the end of the semester,
Mhm.
they were all helpers
Okay.
because they wanted what she got.
Mhm.
And so it's like you have to kind of find out who they are, learn their strengths, learn. I had another student, he was he was so oblivious, like he just didn't care.
Mhm.
He was just sitting there and he was the one that made all the jokes and he was the one that and I found that if I did the lesson
Mhm.
where he was the person that could identify what was going on in the lesson,
Mhm.
it drew him in.
Okay.
So if I would ask a question, okay, so what is the topic? Oh, it's this, it's this, it's this. So
Mhm.
I said, okay, so since you can identify the topic for me, who else can tell me what is happening only in the topic, not the story?
Uh-huh.
Only in the topic. What are they telling you that's going to happen? Because you know that the topic is just giving you like a small picture of what's coming in the story.
Mhm.
So how can you see who can see what's going to happen in the story just from the topic? And his imagination was so broad
Mhm.
that he could pick out words in the topic to say, okay, I can see that this word is going to turn into this.
Mhm.
By the end of our session, he was like, I love my group.
Mhm.
I love this group. This was a kid. He
Mhm.
couldn't care less.
Okay. Well, you
When I
changed his.
first started with him, he
Mhm.
had no desire.
Okay. So when you have these groups with these children and they start at the second grade, do you end up seeing them before they leave the school and see um the same energy, the same type of learning that you have installed in them? Do you kind of check later on just to see are they still walking in that type of that light of that wisdom and knowledge that you shared?
I can only hope because sometimes we don't go back to the same school.
Really?
So
Oh.
I can only hope.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
Going
I
home.
will say I know that there have to be a teacher. I know there's a teacher for me. I'm 55, and I know there's one of my favorite teachers that you can know that she poured into you. So they definitely remember teachers. Is there a favorite teacher that you had growing up that you still think of her?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of my favorite teachers was my chemistry teacher because I hated chemistry.
Did you really?
I
but,
could not stand chemistry.
but she made it fun for you to learn.
It was a he,
Oh, he. Okay.
and he made it so interesting. He didn't make it fun, but he made it interesting to where I wanted to learn it because he explained to me that chemistry is everything that we do, even in relationship. Because if we don't
Yes.
have the right chemistry in a
Correct.
relationship, it's not
Correct.
going anywhere.
That is true. That is true. Well, that is beautiful. I'm so glad because we only got probably about 10 more minutes, but I am so glad that you took the opportunity to want to talk about the negative behavior and then sharing how you challenge when you do see negative behavior compared to me or other people. When we see the negative behavior, we don't feel like dealing with the fear of the conflict that might come at us, or we don't challenge ourselves um to want to see change in that person or in that child who's in the mix of all that negativity. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go involved of why we don't speak out. It could be we're so much normal of the behavior, we kind of use that blibbable eye and don't pretend we see it, or we try to keep the harmony and keep peace. There's a
Mhm.
lot of factors that go involved, when we see negative behavior and why we don't like to challenge them. And I commend you by stepping up to the parents and bringing it to their attention. And I know, just in case anybody else who want to go out there, you do it privately. You don't do it out and open. And I can understand why you don't do it open, because you make that person feel ashamed or
Yeah,
embarrassed. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? And so it's
Mhm.
going to go soft because now you exposing her, right? And so that's good that you do that. So I love it that you do both. You're working with the children, correcting them so they can take it home to mom. And then when you
Absolutely.
see it, you can pull that individual over in a private setting
Yeah.
and let them see, that, hey, you are the child first teacher.
Yes, you are.
Yes. And so, with that being said, is there any remarks or closing that you would like to share on us being better stewards and trying to help the children as well as help the parents to, you know, be accountable for our negative behavior that we expose so we can be better individuals? I know that was a lot. Sorry.
um, the thing is, never be afraid to expose yourself, because if you don't expose yourself to situations out, sometimes we want to live in a box
Mm,
because it feels comfortable. Like I said earlier, we want to take that coat and we want to wear it because okay, it fits, it's snug, it's a protective coat. It is not. It is a dangerous place to be. So we want to be able to confront ourselves, take that initial step of confronting what we're feeling,
mm-hmm.
learning how to address it, learn how to bring it forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because we talked earlier about how we want to brush things off,
Mm-hmm.
we want to deflect. Learn how to confront. And you start with confronting you. You don't start with confronting somebody else,
Correct. Correct.
because confronting somebody else is a conflict that you're a can of worm that you're opening up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start with confronting yourself, then you have no choice but to address the issues that are going on with you before you're able to address the issues that are going on externally.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
you can't plant a plant without digging a hole.
Yes, yes. I love what you said, because what actually comes to mind is that um for us to speak up, we have to be able to not only empower the individual, but we're actually empowering ourselves.
Hmm.
And like you say, there might be something that we're dealing with internally that we don't know, that we have silenced ourselves. And so, like you said, we have to dig our own hole so
Hmm.
we can find out what is it that's challenging us while
Hmm.
we don't want to speak up.
Right.
And like you said, we have to, and to be able to empower someone else, it starts with empowering us
That's
first.
right.
So, but I will say it can be a dual thing, because not only are you empowering somebody else, now you have stepped in to that hole to empower yourself.
That's
And
right.
then there's a growth that's going to take place, because you didn't even realize you had it in you to be able to stand up for somebody else. And so I love that topic, and I love this whole message, because I had to stand up for somebody that I didn't even realize um, how empowered I was. But it also came with a consequences in it that sometimes you don't realize speaking up for someone.
Hmm.
But I will say that it has made me grow in a tremendous light,
Hmm.
where
Hmm.
not only is that individuals going through the healing, but there was an internal issue that I had to go through, that I'm
Hmm.
going through the healing as well. So I thank you for having this conversation with me, because it is definitely needed, you know, and hopefully this will help other people to speak up and not be afraid and not think it's normal, and be able to challenge yourself to empower themselves to get the healing that they need, so we could continue to heal others who are going through whatever they're going through.
Absolutely. As authors, you and I, um, we have kind of a creative eye,
Hmm.
to see things the way other people don't.
Yes, yes, but I think also we have to go through things in life ourselves, experience.
Yes. Yes.
Because until you
Yes.
go through it yourself, you're not going to see what it looks like, what it feels like. You know what I'm saying? And speaking of an author, yes, we both are authors, but you just came out with your third. Is it your third book?
Second.
Okay, your second book. That means
Second.
I'm speaking something into
Yeah.
existence. You got another one
That's
coming, but
that's okay. It's coming.
it is coming. But because you spoke of it, I know your book deals with a lot of the negative behavior to speak about it. So let the audience know that the title of your book, and just a little bit of what it's about and how they can actually purchase your book.
Okay. It's called An Invitation to Life's Treasures, which is on the same topic that we just spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
And in finding that, uncovering, unearthing those things that are already within you that we're afraid because of fear, because we don't want to make other people discomfort, because we don't want to uh, rock the boat, so to speak, because we don't want to um, have other people see us as the aggressor. So we don't say anything. We
Mm-hmm.
don't give ourselves the opportunity to be empowered, as we talked about earlier, so that we can then address those issues that we have buried, and we can uncover those so that we could help other people to bury them, to unearth them, to dig them up.
Mm-hmm.
You can't find a treasure without going deep.
That's right.
You cannot find the root of something without digging down in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot plant a plant without digging a hole. So
Absolutely.
if we're unwilling, it says your life is the greatest treasure you will ever encounter. Sometimes we get in our own way and forget the promises God has already planted deep within you. Don't ever forget who you are or whose you are. So our buried values are sometimes our inspirations, there are dreams, there are desires and our hopes.
Hmm.
And we bury them and leave them to dry in the ground. And
Absolutely.
so if we want anything to grow, we have to water it.
Absolutely. Yes. So
So
thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. And,
absolutely.
and your book is on Amazon,
My
correct?
book is on Amazon.
And what's
Uh,
the title again?
it's called Finding Your Invitation to Your Life's Greatest Treasures,
All right.
which
I'll
is yourself.
definitely Okay. I definitely will put that in the body of the message. And I just wanted to say, just listening to you, I just wanted to say this here. By speaking up, and I just pulled this up, by speaking up, you become a part of a solution that benefits everyone.
Yes,
Don't underestimate the power of your voice.
that's
Your
right.
words can inspire, change, promote healthy environments, and encourage
Absolutely.
others to stand tall with you. Let's foster a space where we all speak up, support one another, and build a better, more respectful
Yes.
community. So thank you, Marcy Cole, for
You
being
are
here,
welcome.
sharing the work that you do with our children, our babies, and even the mothers who and the fathers who don't even know, who's not even aware
Mm,
that they are the first teacher. Please
yeah.
continue touching the minds, the hearts, the spirits, and the souls of the individuals in the community. And with that being said, I thank you again. Please continue to do your thing. Please support Marcy and her book. I will have the information, but it's on Amazon,
Yeah.
and I will have the title on there for you so you can support her. With that being said, beautiful, thank you so much. And everybody, thank you for tuning in and have a beautiful day.
Thank you
Goodbye.
so much.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
sweetie. You're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye bye.